Dear students, in the previous part we have defined prism and its important terms, and also we have derived relation between angle of deviation delta, angle of incidence I, angle of emergence E, and angle of prism A. That is delta equal to I plus E minus capital A. And in this part we have to draw a graph between angle of deviation and angle of incidence, that is delta and I. So let us try to find out what is the measure of the graph between angle of deviation produced by the prism and angle of incidence I. And when the graph yexi angle of deviation ga angle of incidence I in case of prism. The angle of deviation delta is y axis, that is vertical upward axis. The angle of incidence I is horizontal axis or x axis. The plot the nature of the graph between angle of deviation delta and angle of incidence I is the nature of the graph between angle of deviation produced by a prism and the corresponding values of angle of incidence is in the form of a curve. Curve angle of incidence increase zero increase angle of deviation delta decrease. That is, delta decreases with increasing angle of incidence I from 0 degree. At a particular value of angle of incidence, let it denoted by I naught. I naught have an angle of incidence angle of deviation delta minimum value, and that is called minimum angle of deviation. Let it denoted by delta m. Delta is sum hadarpadagi paidagi pick value of fangani adugi value dunis the delta m. Then again, when the angle of incidence I is further increased, that is beyond I naught, delta will start increasing from minimum value. Delta value is quite piamado of the game increase over Haurani sigi figures in a style. Now, nature of the graph between delta and I is now mana important points anikalai karino of hargadi sagi at a particular angle of incidence. Here I note angle of deviation becomes minimum. Angle of deviation is minimum at a particular value of angle of incidence. Angle of deviation is minimum the trouble. Any angle of deviation, let us say delta dias delta dias angle GD angle of incidence ani level. Angle of incidence figures the I1 I2 angle of incidence I1 the angle of deviation is delta dias whatever. Angle of incidence I2 the magi angle of deviation is delta dias whatever. Aduna sigi figures na taijek karinobu for a given value of angle of deviation. There may be two different values of angle of incidence, but there is one and only one value of angle of incidence for angle of minimum deviation. And graph so we may write like this: the angle of deviation delta produced by a prism depends on angle of incidence I as delta equal to I plus E minus A. On a equation delta is angle of incidence ki makha pole delta value I depend. The graph between delta and I is in the form of a curve as shown in figure. The figures magi delta ga I graph it shows that as the angle of incidence increases, angle of incidence increase the angle of deviation delta decreases. Delta is decrease decrease till it becomes minimum at a particular angle of incidence I naught. delta is some decrease tarapaduna maze khwaidagi pikpa value fawba decrease tawrani at a particular value of angle of incidence se akoina sigi figure is the I naught haise ko I naught have angle of incidence da delta je khwaidagi pikpa value ma phangane ba aduna sigi khwaidagi pikpa minimum value of angle of deviation je akoina angle of minimum deviation ko kaduni ko ar mathang damu yengsi kamaina lakisi. So the minimum value of angle of deviation is called minimum deviation denoted by delta m. There is one and only one value of angle of incidence denoted by I naught for which the angle of deviation produced by the prism is minimum. Aduna angle of deviation je khwaidagi pikpa value orgadi angle of incidence se amadagi henna leiba yadi akoi sigi figure is the I naught harisne. But there may be two different values of angle of incidence, that is I1 and I2. Sigi figure is the I1, I2 here is equal. For any value of angle of deviation, that is delta ds. Angle of deviation is minimum oidraba. Atop nang akoy apamba angle of deviation naman long matamda tongan ba angle of incidence ki value is ani leba yane ba ko aduni sida here is matang dala tu jina akoy namu sagi angle of minimum deviation oige hargadi condition ani kak darkar oi karam kanda angle of deviation is minimum oigadagi haisini ko aduna angle of deviation is minimum oige hargadi first point da akoina thamiba prism je symmetrical oigane ba kanaga with respect to incident light ray and emergent light ray. Prism da yai riba light ray duga prism da gi tholai ba light ray duga ani do akoina yematam da symmetrical oi bai dar hadi incident light ray dagi yengazu emergent light ray rom dagi yengazu prism je samana na uba hai tar amarom da angle of incidence I ga angle of emergence E ga managani hai bane ba ani suba point da sagi minimum deviation oi ge hargati prism da far was aliba, that is refracted light ray inside the prism do parallel to the base of the prism dugi magi base id bottom surface to khai makha da leba surface tuga parallel where ka sat kane amarom da angle r1 equal to angle r2. Angle r1 haibadi prism ki first refracting surface ta leba angle of refraction duni aduga r2 fargana prism ki second refracting surface ta leba incident angle of incidence formed by the refracted light ray inside the prism. And the prism ki second refracting surface ta refracted light ray na yai bada leba angle of incidence to manung da prism ki manung da yai bado r2 do aduga managadong ne bhai r1 ga r2 ka manar kanda asai ki prism ki manung da leba refracted light ray do prism ki magi base to ga parallel oigane ba no high ba condition sing je amu yengsi kamaina parallel oige to ko with the help of the diagram of the two conditions, that is necessary conditions for producing minimum deviation are, say Roman number 1, the prism lies symmetrically with respect to angle, with respect to the incident light ray. It may be like this, with respect to the incident light ray and the emergent light ray, that is angle of incidence equal to angle of emergence. Sigi figures there e small e this is now bagi prism to give principal section hai tare maru mama iduni aura sidala is the angle of incidence I lere angle of emergence e lere ani je managani hai bane ko aduna som dagi yengazu left dagi yengazu right dagi yengazu prism ki position de sam anana uba hai bani, that is I iga managadong ne. Second point is now the refracted light ray inside the prism should be parallel to the base of the prism, that is angle r1 equal to angle r2. And see the figure is the light rays inside the prism ziga base id sigi b seba mama is face siga parallel oiga dong ne ba sagi delta do minimum oige fargadi auna sida leriba prism gi manung leriba refracted light rays base ka parallel oitardi automatically sig angle is r1 equal to r2 aduni sida p. So these are the two necessary conditions for producing minimum deviation by the prism.